Hey, what's going on YouTube, and welcome to another Season 7 League of Legends Champion Guide. In this one, we're going to cover mid lane Corki, the daring Bombardier.
I'm up to snuff and got me an ace machine!
Corki's a mid laner with hybrid damage, which makes him pretty hard to itemize against in that mid lane. He has a pretty good built-in escape and has good wave clear because he has AoE on all of his abilities. Because of his fairly high damage build and the fact that he has so much AoE, he's also very easy to CS on, and due to the second part of his passive called the package, he has very excellent roams as well. When Corki finally gets his level 6, he's also got good long range poke, and he's going to be very hard to deal with in that portion of the game. Corki, however, just like all the other high damage main laners out there, is a pretty squishy champion. This of course means positioning is pretty important, but at least you do have your Valkyrie if you do get caught in a bad situation, so you can jump out. Corki is also a very skill shot reliant champion. He does rely on doing a lot of damage from his ultimate and his Q ability, which can sometimes be somewhat hard to land. Corki finally is a pretty mana hungry champion, but once you do get your Trinity Force, you don't even have to cast that many spells to nuke somebody anyways. For my Masteries, I like to go 18 Cunning and 12 Ferocity, grabbing Thunderlord's Decree as my keystone mastery. It's incredibly easy to proc on Corki due to his E ability and can add a lot of damage into your combos and really increase your burst. For the rest of our Masteries, we want to take the typical ones and increase our damage as much as we can, while also getting some increased sustain. For my runes, I like to go for the typical AD carry setup and get attack damage reds, armor yellows, magic resist blues, and attack speed quints. This will give you some nice extra damage and make last hitting and harassing just a little bit better, and also keep you a little bit tanky at the same time by getting some armor and magic resist. If you were against a very hard AP matchup, then you could get scaling health yellows instead if you felt that you didn't need the armor. Hybrid penetration is also pretty good for your reds as well, but I usually like that attack damage just to make last hitting a lot easier. For your first summoner spell, you're going to want to pick up Flash. You are a squishy champion and Flash can save you multiple times in a single game. You can then even use it aggressively to flash forward to finish somebody off with a missile barrage. Exhaust is a great second pick to deal with those mid lane assassins or to just outduel other mid laners. Heal is another great pick to add some nice extra sustain in fights, and the movement speed can even be used as another escape. If you instead wanted some extra kill pressure, then you could always take Ignite to add that extra portion of true damage. Stuff like Barrier and Cleanse are also very viable options as well, but I tend to not take them too often. I definitely prefer Exhaust and Heal. Corki's first passive is Hextech Shells, and this gives him his split of AD and AP damage. Very simply, Corki's basic attacks are permanently modified to deal 50% AD physical damage and 50% AD magical damage. This is great because even if an enemy is stacking a certain type of defensive, you'll still deal a lot of damage because of the other portion of damage you have. The second part of your passive is called the package, and it can give you a really solid initiation and do a lot of damage in a team fight. After 8 minutes have passed, the package is delivered to both corners of Corki's fountain, which you can pick up after channeling for 1 second. Doing so grants him 1 cast of special delivery within the next 60 seconds, as well as 40% bonus movement speed out of combat prior to the ability being cast, after which the packet goes on cooldown before being delivered again. Special delivery is a really solid second version of your W ability that you do get every 240 seconds that can add a ton of damage, and we'll talk about that a bit more when we do get to that page. Corki's Q ability is Phosphorus Bomb, and this is one of your main ways of doing some extra damage and also reveals an area. When activated, Corki launches a bomb at the target area, dealing magic damage to enemies hit. The bomb reveals the area as it travels and for 6 seconds afterwards, as well as all affected enemies. It does do a pretty nice chunk of damage, so you're going to be trying to harass the enemy champion as much as you can with it, and if you do need to AoE clear some minions, it's great for that as well. Whenever you're moving around the map, you can always toss this into a bush as well in case somebody is trying to ambush you to find them, since it does reveal the area. Corki's first form of his W is Valkyrie, and it's great for escaping, engaging, or just dodging skill shots. When activated, Corki dashes the target location, dropping bombs that leave up to 3 blazing patches along its path, depending on the distance traveled. The fire lasts for 2 seconds, dealing magic damage to enemies that remain in the area every half second for a maximum of 5 ticks of damage. So the damage here is kind of secondary because this is mainly used as a way of escaping if you do get caught in a bad spot. Of course, if you are going for an all-in, you may as well try to hit the enemy with this as well, but it is based off of your AP only, so it doesn't do a ton of damage. Primarily, you'll want to use this to dodge important skill shots or just to escape. The second form of your W is called Special Delivery, and you do have to have the package in order to have this ability available. When activated, Corki dashes to the target location with extreme speed, knocking aside all enemies he hits while leaving behind a trail that lasts 5 seconds, slowing enemies within by 90% and dealing between 30 and 100, plus 150% bonus AD and 20% AP magic damage every second for a maximum of between 150 and 500, plus 750% AD and 100% AP magical damage. Casting Special Delivery also instantly resets Valkyrie's cooldown, so if you do engage with it, you can use Valkyrie to reposition. So of course this has the potential to do an absolute ton of damage, but it does already push them out, so they're not going to be taking it right off the bat, they'd have to kind of step into it. It's kind of like a Rumble ultimate in that it's not that amazing when it is an open field, but if there is a choke point and they don't really have a choice but to be in it, then it can be extremely devastating. It is, however, extremely strong in ganks. If you are going to gank another lane, use this to block them off because they don't want to step into it and take all of that damage and receive that massive slow. Corki's E ability is Gatling Gun, and it does a nice chunk of damage as well, but also reduces resistances. When activated, Corki activates his Gatling Gun and sprays bullets in a cone in front of him for 4 seconds, dealing equal parts physical and magic damage every quarter second, and reducing his target's armor and magic resist each tick, stacking up to 8 times, lingering for 2 seconds after last being damaged. Gatling Gun does also not hinder Corki's actions, and its cone remains in front of him. So this is a really strong ability for wave clearing, but you'll also want to activate it whenever you are fighting an enemy and you are in 600 range to make sure you are shredding their armor, and magic resist of course, and also dealing extra damage. Corki's ultimate is Missile Barrage, and this is a really strong long range poke that works great with a Trinity Force as well. Passively, Corki stores a charge of Missile Barrage periodically up to a maximum of 7 at once and starts with 7 missiles every time he respawns. When activated, Corki fires a missile in a line that explodes if it hits an enemy, dealing magic damage to the nearby ones. Every third missile Corki fires is a big one, dealing 50% increased damage and doubling its explosion radius. This ability also has a 1225 range, making it great for poking while you are in the lane phase. It has pretty much a 2-second cooldown, so it works great with a Trinity Force as long as you can weave some auto attacks in between your missiles. As long as you can constantly land this ability on your enemies, you're going to be extremely hard to deal with, and when they are low enough, you can go for an all-in. For your skill order, you first want to put a point into your ultimate whenever you can at 6, 11, and 16. We then want to focus on maxing our Q ability first, because it is great AoE damage that makes it great for farming and also harassing the enemy champion. Then we move on to our E ability because it is really solid damage as well that's also AoE, but it also reduces resistances, making it extremely strong in duels. Then finally, since our W ability is only based off of our AP, we only take 1 early point at level 3, otherwise we save it for last just so we have it as an escape when we do need it. For our all-in combo without our W ability, we first start by landing our Q on the enemy champion so we do a nice chunk of damage and reveal them. Follow it up with an auto attack and then activate your W and auto attack again. At this point, you want to start using the rockets from your ultimate while also weaving in auto attacks to make sure you get off that Sheen proc damage. Without a lot of attack speed, this will be 2 attacks, but if you do get a lot of attack speed later on, then this could be more. Keep in mind that you could always engage with your W ability or use it to reposition during the fight. In the lane phase, you want to try to harass the enemy as much as you can while also grabbing all the CS you can. Make sure you max your Q ability first for its great wave clear and poke. When you're level 6, start poking the enemy as much as you can with your Missile Barrage. Buy an early Sheen and start mixing the empowered auto attacks in between your missiles to maximize your damage. Whenever you have the package, look to gank other lanes. It can deal a massive amount of damage and easily get you into position to deal your burst damage and delete a target. It's a really easy way to get yourself or your other lane snowballing. In teamfights, you'll want to try to keep your distance at the start and poke the enemies as much as you can with your Missile Barrage. If you have the package, then you may want to consider initiating with it. It's amazing if you can use it in a choke point where the enemy has no choice but to sit in it. It will deal 750% AD if someone takes the full duration, so it can be pretty damn devastating. After you use it, you can even use Valkyrie to jump back out while they do burn and follow up with the rest of your kit. Whenever you're in close range, make sure you activate Gatling Gun to deal extra damage and shred those resists so you can increase your own damage at the same time. Now let's look at a couple hard matchups, and first up is Lux. She's one of those champions that can outrange you, especially pre-level 6, and if you do get caught, she can usually follow up with the rest of her combo and instantly delete you. Avoid her skill shots as much as you can, and you may want to consider buying a Hex Drinker to avoid getting bursted. Play more passively at the start, and when you are level 6, try to poke her as much as you can, and then go for an all-in. Next here we have Syndra, and you really have to dodge her skills as well, because if she does land a stun combo and ultimate you, you are most likely dead. Most of her abilities do have a pretty long cooldown, so as long as you can dodge them, you can then follow up and easily win trades. You'll still want to play a little bit more passively early on. You may want to consider getting a Hex Drinker, and when you are level 6, poke her yet again and then go for an all-in later. Just make sure you dodge the stun at all costs. Next we have Xerath, another really long range mage that can easily kill you as long as he can land his stun combo, so you have to be behind minions so you can't get hit by it. Make sure you're sidestepping his Q ability as much as you can, and as long as you can, consider going in for trades, but make sure you dodge his E ability, which can stun you. You want to play more passively early on, but when you do get your tourney force, be more aggressive and try to trade with him. Last we have Ziggs, another champion that has a pretty decent range and can easily kill you if he is landing his skill shots. Make sure you dodge his Q ability at all costs because it does do a lot of damage, and if he's constantly landing it, you're going to lose the lane. Like all the other matchups, consider a Hex Drinker, play more passively early on, and when you do get a tourney force, go for more aggressive trades. Now let's finish off this guide with our item build, which starts with a Doran's Blade, Health Potion, and a Warding Totem. For your core build, we have the Tourney Force, Sork Boots, Infinity Edge, and Rapid Fire Cannon. It's also viable to get a Hextech Gunblade after your Tourney Force, but I usually like to get my sustain later on in the game, and I'm not a huge fan of Hextech Gunblade myself. For your item pool, of course Hextech Gunblade is our first one. It does give attack damage and ability power, which works great on Corki, and of course you do get that sustain as well. The active is pretty solid as well for dueling, and it does allow you to kite, so it is good in situations like that. Now if you did want to go for a Hex Drinker early on, you could of course get the Maw as well later on, because it is a good defensive item. It does give you some nice survivability and is great against AP assassins. Now if you're somebody like me and you do prefer sustain from other items besides the Hextech Gunblade, then you could go for the Bloodthirster or the Mercurial Scimitar. The Bloodthirster is great because it does give you a lot of damage, of course that lifesteal, and the shield as well, making you a little bit tankier in the process. If you're against a lot of CCs and you really wanted to try to break out of one, then Mercurial is definitely the best pickup of them all. Void Staff is another really solid item in our item pool, and it gives you that magic penetration needed to get through any of that magic resist. As we know, most of Corki's damage is actually magic, so that's why the Void Staff is better over something like an LDR. Then of course we have the Guardian Angel, which is a fantastic late game item, and it can allow you to kill more people when you do resurrect. For our example full build, we take that core build and add the Mercurial Scimitar and a Void Staff. This is my favorite full build for sure. I definitely prefer the Mercurial Scimitar over the Hextech Gunblade because it does give you that great defensive utility. Then of course, like I said before, the Void Staff is there because we do a lot of magic damage, and this will help you get through a lot of the magic resist that will be there in the later stages of the game. But that, ladies and gentlemen, covers everything I've got for Season 7 Mid Lane Corki. Don't forget to check out the video description below for a link to all my social medias, and keep in mind I do Riot Point giveaways on my Twitter, and I do also have a Discord, so those are two you should definitely check out. But other than that, thank you guys a ton for watching the guide, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!
All them vain decisions keep you jaded. You could have found the one, but you won't change. So aren't you glad to meet me? I think you should, I'd be glad to meet me. If I were you, aren't you glad to meet me? I think you should.